King David Studio podcast.
Is it true you gave ANC very high demands that were almost impossible to achieve?
No.
Yeah.
But those demands of the EFF were made public. Like we did say that if you want to talk to us, we must talk to principal issues as well. Like, because there was a process of the parliamentary inquiry on the whole issue of the land expropriation without compensation. We say that there's a policy issue here which coincidentally is our conference resolutions. Ours is a founding manifesto commitment. On your part, you have agreed in your own conference to expropriate land without compensation.
So let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's have a clear framework to introduce free education. Let's drop the stem from the national anthem. We engaged openly with them. Then
which one was the most difficult? Because it seems like they are pretty obvious, these things.
They said everything is difficult. They said everything is difficult.
Are you not difficult with the stem? And I asked this, let me hear your perspective. Are you not saying, as a united front, South Africa has agreed to bring everyone together and you're saying remove this?
We is united.
It's
whites and black people.
Whites and black people.
Those things were fictions. Like there was a fuss. Like, but also, how do you take the song of your oppressors, like, which was used to celebrate
Rainbow Nation?
No,
you know where we're from.
No,
it was a Rainbow Nation ambition.
Those things are absolute rubbish. Those things which those people did in CODESA are absolute rubbish. If anything that we want to reverse ourselves is those CODESA agreements. They were sellout positions in terms of how they got to construct this democratic project. So, I mean, like Mandela, that is why, if there was really meaningful achievement that was brought by Mandela, it was going to be a factor every day. It's only white people who are celebrating Mandela now. Black people even forget that there's Mandela. But all the youth, they don't even associate with him.
Yeah.
Like, because there's nothing which really we can say is the father of the nation, he brought us freedom and all of those things. Because those things that they've agreed to in CODESA were absolute rubbish.
The Mandela era, highly celebrated all over the world.
Yes.
And you seem to question not necessarily the era, but what happened before the 27th of April. The conversations that led to the free country that we got. What are some of your fundamental issues with that?
No, there's a lot of strategic retreats on mostly economic policy issues. So the liberation movement, mostly the ANC, capitulated to the demands of domestic and global capitalists as well as to what should happen, what should constitute a new South Africa. Mostly it was to say, guys, just take political power, the economy we're going to continue to control. And some coincidentally, I wrote my master's advocates about the economic policy discussions and deliberations in the period 1990-1994.
So you've had to engage this intimately.
So, and it's not fiction, actually. Like, we illustrate even in the master's thesis that Mandela was having a recurrent meeting with Harry Oppenheimer to talk about the economic policies of South Africa. So as part of my research project, I interviewed Bobby Godsell, who was part of the Oppenheimer empire, and I also interviewed a guy called Clem Santa.
And they were frank.
No, they were frank that we used to meet. We said, those were actually very useful discussions because we used to meet with Sir Harry Oppenheimer and Nelson Mandela, and we work into details of how the economy should look like and everything else there. So it was actually a very good thing that we did. And remember, like, the Oppenheimers, like through Clem Santa had said in 1987 that in the ultimate end, negotiations must work, rhetoric must be dropped, and we must continue to do business as usual. And that is what they got to achieve ultimately. And to show the basic illustration of how there was a sellout position on the economy, it's the composition of President Mandela's cabinet. right? The Minister of Land was Cruyff van Niekerk from the apartheid government. The Minister of Minerals was Pik Botha.
Government of National Unity. They had to bring guys
okay,
in.
That's fine.
You're saying
No,
look
unity.
at the positions.
No. And then the Minister of Finance was Derek Keys.
Yes.
And was succeeded by Limbenberg as well, like from Nedbank, was forwarded from Nedbank. And then they had the deputy president of de Klerk and obviously Thabo. But they safeguarded the economic sectors, because once you say minerals, land, and the minerals component also include the petroleum resources, and then finance, what are you left with? You're left with labor, sports and labor. See, you're a minister of labor.
Yes.
Like
and health.
And you can't, and you're not doing anything.
What did we have
like,
health? Who did we have health?
Like
anyway.
Like I think health was Nkosazana.
Nkosazana, that's the era where cigarettes had the advertising ended. Yes.
But the key economic sectors
were
led by the same people. And once they were sure that our agenda is solid here, it won't be disturbed, they allowed black people to continue play the puppet role which they had already designed. So the CODESA outcomes are nowhere close to revolutionary, and that is why majority of black people remain poor. That is why South Africa is the most unequal society in the world. It actually did apartheid in terms of levels of inequality. Apartheid, where legislation was making it unlawful for black people to own economic sectors, it's outdone by the so-called democratic state in terms of the extent of inequalities, because white people just got richer and black people got poorer. And the gap is way too much. And there is no creation of a black bourgeoisie or capitalist class.
One can say that there is a rise in middle class that happened since 94. And mostly, obviously, it's amongst black people.
It's underwhelming rise, actually. It's an underwhelming rise. I mean, like, if we're to, maybe we're going to talk about China now.
We will have to.
I mean, if you were to check what is the rise of the middle class is, it has to be more than 50% of the population if you want to talk about significant changes. Like China, correctly, including the UN development program, like UNDP, and the United Nations acknowledge the fact that China is responsible for poverty reduction, of global poverty reduction at 70% of the poverty reduced, because it took more than 700 million out of absolute poverty. So, and the creation of more than 400 million middle class. You know, when you got 400 million middle class component, it's people with disposable income and buying power.
True.
That is a huge economic base. I don't think South Africa we are anywhere close to that. The numbers are nowhere close to satisfactory. That is why we're not a significant market for anything.
What made you want to study another master's?
I did a research proposal first here in South Africa for a PhD.
Okay.
And so, you know, in South Africa, the manner in which the research proposals are done is that you do a research proposal, you go and defend it in front of academics, and then they give you a go-ahead to write the PhD.
I'm going through that.
Yes.
I haven't, I'm still in the process of putting it together.
Yeah, and then you write, then you submit. Right? So the Vet School of Governance said, I'd already defended mine.
Your submission.
Yeah, and I was going to write about the nature of South African capitalism as well. Like it was going to be very interesting. That was inspired by Frederick Engel's PhD, which was the conditions of the working class in England. So I was like, okay, let's write something about. Then in the process of writing, I actually wrote a lot, right? Then I was like, I think I need more practical experience, one with the politics of South Africa, but also with government, to could contribute something much more meaningful as a PhD. Like, I think it's too early to could write a PhD, because PhD must be addition to knowledge. It must be out of practical observation of what have you learned in society, in practice. Like, if you're going to write about industrial policy and everything else, you should have been able to say, this is what I've guided in relation to industrial policy and all of those. So I was like, it's premature to could pursue that route. Then I was like, let me then choose to do a master's program to strengthen
Your
yeah
ambitions.
my ambitions later on to do a PhD. But then the criteria for me was that I must do a master's in one of the top 10 universities in the world.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I was about to ask, why choose University of London?
So I had actually I had said like whichever department that I had said, because I was like, let's test if these theories that we have and ideas that we have can be tested at a far much larger scale and everything else. But also, I was thinking that, the PhD which I defended was with the Vets Governance School. I was like, to have 4 degrees from one university is not.
Okay, or you wanted to
Yeah.
widen your scope.
Then during the COVID period, what then happened was that I then decided that I'm going to enroll for a master's program. Then I said, before I do that, let me enroll for a 3-month short course. Then I enrolled with the London School of Economics first for a 3-month short course.
Somebody lied and said they got a PhD at London School of Economics.
One of the board members, yeah.
Yeah.
So that I did a short course like for 3 months. And then the average which I got was 79.2% like of the course on globalization and the global economy and politics. And then I gained some confidence. I was like, this thing is not very difficult. LSE is raving about a lot and everything. Let me then go mainstream. Then I enrolled for the Masters of Science in International Development from SOAS Development Studies School. So, the University of London, it's a very huge university. There's got upward of 200,000 students.
Yo.
But then within the University of London, they've got semi-autonomous schools and departments.
SOAS being one of them.
Yeah, SOAS being one of them. London School of Economics is one of them as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of prominent universities within the university.
Wow.
I think, by the way, we should model that maybe for one of the universities, either Wits University or University of Johannesburg in South Africa, where
you find that though with Gordon, what is it, Gibbs?
I think we must make it far much bigger. I think we must have the quantitative expansion of VETS or UJ to go 100,000 plus students, and then
with smaller universities within.
Yes. So that we create a farm. I don't understand why we have not by now turned the entire Braamfontein, Auckland Park
into
area,
a student,
into a research and academic city, or suburb, or where,
because it's moving that way on its own.
Yes,
in
and
some
then
way.
and then what we do as well there, we then remove the fences into universities so that we can have truly open education, such that if you are staying around there, even if you are not enrolled into a class, you can say, let me attend the course on sociology, like just one lecture, but you must pre-inform the university that I just want to learn this component and then I go. I'm not enrolled, but just allow me. We must have open universities like that. By and large, by the way, there are no real strong fences there in the University of London complexes. So
you can just...
LSE,
Wow.
There's no access control. Where are you going? Who are you going to see? No.
How did you do it practically? Were you there a lot?
No. So they have got extremely advanced online education systems where you attend classes and put on your laptop and you must be physically there. They verify that it's you. Even when you're writing exams, you can write exam, they open one page where you're writing only, right? First, they must survey where you are, that there is nothing else there.
Okay, wow.
And then the question comes as and when you answer them, right?
Okay.
You dare lower the screen, it's gone forever. You will never. If you lower the screen, from once it opens there, it's gone forever. You will not be able to write because they will think that you're now copying and everything else.
Oh.
Yeah, they've got very strong, highly advanced online education systems. I did coursework. I did 3 courses, and then I did a research paper. And the coursework was not easy.
What was it? What were the courses?
The course I did was called the sociology and politics of global economy.
Okay.
The other one was called understanding poverty. There's a huge course on understanding poverty, which is actually very insightful. Like on it actually reveals that most of the poverty measurements that we use in South Africa are problematic. We just use monetary components without looking into the multi-dimensional expressions of poverty. And then I did a course on economics, politics, and society in East Asia.
Are they prerequisites a part of the master's in science degree, or they were separate from that? Are they part of the?
Yeah, it's part of the. Yeah, it's part of the MSc.
Yeah.
Like the reason why they call it Master of Science is because they know that they've trained you. You can have some scientific value out of what. But it was not easy. Like it was very difficult.
It always looks easy when it's done.
Yeah. Do you know this an assignment which a lot of people got to drop out from the program because of like they said during COVID, like towards the end of COVID, they say, can you please write 8,000 words of analyzing the incidents of COVID and the responses of the governments of the following countries, which you don't choose yourself. Let's say Ghana, Germany, Mexico. I think the last one was Nicaragua, right? And then the three don't have English literature. Like,
where do you start?
That you like, where do I get information about Germany and Mexico? And I had to look for translation services and apps and everything else there to be able to.
That can help you.
Yeah. A lot of people stopped. They said that you're taking us too far now.
Do you find?
And then, but I was able to like enjoy. But at some stage, I was like, it is worth it.
I was about to ask. Did you find at some point you wanted to give up like others?
Yeah. At some stage, I was like, hey, this is and remember, I start this coursework and everything as during the COVID lockdowns, right? So that time I've got maximal time and everything else. But then the program is not a year, it's 2 years.
Okay.
Then the reopening happens. Like of the country.
Now you have to work.
Now I must, There was a sauna debate where I think one of the saunas, I was submitting an assignment. I had to literally break a laptop from outside when they were presenting.
You were submitting during sauna in Parliament?
Yeah.
What?
Even when I submitted the final dissertation, I was actually in Kigali, in Rwanda, attending the Interparliamentary Union's assembly. Like,
how did you manage though to make time?
I work differently, like myself. Like, so I work at night. Like I work in the evening. Like, I start at 12 in the evening, and I push until 4 or 5 in the morning, where there is no disturbances of phone calls and all of those.
Complete silence.
Yeah, and complete silence.
You may have noticed I send you something. In the morning.
That is how I operate. So So many people like see that things that I've written, but they've never seen me typing anything on a laptop. So
I was about to ask, when do you do it?
So I do, and then the other thing as well, which was very difficult during winter, is that I'm unable to write under a roof.
Okay, explain.
I must see the sky everywhere I write. I must have to sit outside. Yeah.
So you work outside?
Yeah. If it's a place, there must be a balcony or there must be an
What led to that? What is that?
I don't know. Like, I can't. Like, I become extremely jittery and panicky when...
What?
It's a close-off place. Yeah.
I wonder where it comes from. So you have to be outside under a tree.
Like, I must see the sky. Yeah.
That's strange.
To the extent that when it's cold, right, I rather put heaters around there.
Outside?
Yeah, because I can't be able to...
That's very different.
Yeah, I need the sky all the time.
Yeah.
I desperately, I don't know what causes that.
Let's talk about the research. It's an interesting one. Tell us, what is it? What did you research?
So I did, my dissertation was on examining whether China's
King David Studio podcast.